We're live. That's it. That's it. We're live again. Welcome back to Akbarapa. This is Campbell.
This is TJ. What's happening?
Yes. Thank you all for your patience. And we'll invite you to click on the notifications button so that you don't miss any lives from us. Okay? Make sure you share. Make sure you like. Make sure you comment and tell us what you'd like to hear from us. And today's a general topic. We're doing a catch up. As all of you know, we're on this self actualization journey. So, one step I have taken towards that is semen retention, fasting, and shadow work. Right. So, we're just doing a catch up just to see where we all
Just
are.
remind me here, shadow work. What? How do you define that?
So, shadow work is all the emotions and behaviors that are not acceptable or were not acceptable during our childhood and have been shoved away into the shadow. So, into this side of ourselves that is in the dark. So,
What do you mean
basically,
not acceptable in our childhood? You mean like something like sex is not acceptable?
so one thing would be maybe anger,
Right.
maybe being an overachiever, being proud, being I don't know, any sort of behavior that was discouraged during our childhood. And this carries on not only in our childhood, even as we go into teenage years and even into our adult years. So all those type of behaviors that society or the people around us in our context, in our network, do not endorse all of these behaviors because we need to conform, right? All of these behaviors get shoved into the shadow. And
Right. You mean
yeah,
shadow as in Carl Jung's
that's it.
shadow?
Yeah. If we want to
Okay.
use IT terminologies, that will be the database. You just
Hmm.
shoving everything in there, and we don't have unlimited database. We don't have unlimited storage. Eventually, we will implode or explode, and people gonna know about it. That's for sure.
So
So
the idea is that your shadow is a necessary counterpart that you need to utilize at the appropriate time.
the thing is, under normal circumstances, we shouldn't have a shadow side of ourselves. We should be able to express all of our feelings, all of our potential, always and in every place. But because we're not in normal circumstances and the world is not an ideal place, therefore the shadow develops automatically because you'll always be repressed in some form or way, right? And it's all energy. So it's all tucked away energy that in some way, some shape or form is limiting or deciding our current behavior.
But you said under normal circumstances.
That's
Can
it.
you what? So excuse me, by the way,
No
for
worries.
I'm just trying to understand. So, under normal circumstances, why are we not in normal circumstances, and when would normal circumstances have been
So,
available?
I would say normal circumstances would be, let's take for example a tree, right? When
Mhm.
a tree grows, it would grow as much and as tall as it can possibly grow, right? The
Right.
tree under, if there are no constraints, no limitations, and maybe no side roads or no impediments, it would it would do its thing. It will reach as high as it can, as deep as it can with its roots. But now,
Right.
because we know this does not normally happen in the cities or where maybe there is some sort of urbanization. So trees will get limited by maybe sidewalk, pavements, people will chop them up. So this,
Pollution.
there you go. So this is not a normal cause and effect. Now let's bring it back to human beings. We are born in a world where our parents need to work maybe 9 to 5, 8 to midnight or whatever. So we're not always nurtured with both parents, and then our parents are also children of our grandparents. So they must have gone through some other sort of stressful or, character shaping development during their infancy. So then, if they have not done some sort of shadow work, they would also carry on this trauma, or let's call it these behaviors, onto us. So, from the very first human being that might have been traumatized by the Industrial Revolution, let's say, we're just carrying all of that until someone actually breaks the chain. So we're already not in normal circumstances, if that makes sense.
What conditions do you think would be completely ideal if we could get there now? Would it be, a sort of hunter-gatherer situation? Would it be, what would you think to be ideal?
I think, and I believe, honestly, it would be a situation where the fullest expression of each human being comes to, you know, at the forefront of every decision, right? There's a famous, I wouldn't say philosopher, but this iconic guy called Aleister Crowley, okay? And he proposed a theory called Thelema. Basically, Thelema went about
Was
saying
he an
that
occultist?
he was, yeah, he was a Crowley,
Crowley.
Aleister Crowley, yeah.
Okay, okay.
So he,
I was told to to fear that man,
oh,
not fear. I was told to, I
bro,
was told that guy's literally,
the
you
devil.
know, yeah,
Yeah. But so
Go on.
many of them. But basically, the theory of Thelema goes about saying that if each and every one of us listened to the little voice within them and did exactly as they were commanded to do when they came on earth, there would be no conflict because there is so much stuff to do that everyone would be busy and would carry on doing their duties, right? But because for some reason this will that each and every one of us carries gets corrupted, so then you have this situation where the will of this and the will of that person would overlap, creating conflict and so on to the day, to the present day where, you have a, conflictual interest between various people, nations, communities, races, and etc., because we've been kind of put off this natural path. This is all, his theory, obviously, but it's something that I deeply believe in.
So this is interesting because Socrates
Yeah.
had a concept called where he said that everyone has something that he describes as a daemon,
Hmm.
which could be seen as your inner conscious or your inner voice.
That's it.
And he said that um, you should do what that thing says.
Yeah.
And he was discussing consciousness and all of this stuff.
Yeah.
And he lived and died by that
That's it.
because he was he was um, he was teaching people his stoic ideas. Um, Socrates had a lot of Socrates has discussions of Atlantis, has a lot of interesting stuff. We all know about him today because of the impact to his ideas had on
Alexander the Great.
democracy of Greece,
That's it.
etc.
That's
And
it.
Alexander the Great, he's one of the modern society's forefathers, you could say.
Yeah.
So at the time, though, he was considered um, a, a sort of rebel, an upstart.
Yeah.
And I'm sure I've said this before, but anyway, for those that don't know. So the people of his time, he had a school and people would come from far and wide to listen and study under him.
Yeah.
And so the political class of his time called him in and they said that you are creating too much disruption. It was
Yeah.
almost like they were saying you're giving away too much truth
Yeah.
to the young people, and it's too dangerous.
Mm-hmm.
So here are your options. You'll either stand trial for treason,
Hmm.
or you can just be banished.
Yeah.
And he says that because he felt what he was doing was true. The voice inside of him said that, you can't run away from this. You should stand trial,
Yeah.
and you should stand up for what is right in your eyes.
Yeah.
And he stood trial, and he was executed.
Hmm. I think by
Um,
suicide, right? He kind of cut his own veins.
yeah, I don't know the details of the death, but essentially they ruled him as,
A
as a sort of
radical. Yeah.
heretic of his time.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And yeah, I don't know if it was him that actually took his own life in the end. You'll have to fact check me on that. But he
I
was
think
they were
so. Yeah.
they were going to kill him.
Yeah.
They were going to kill him,
Yeah.
and so he
Yeah.
lived by that. But yeah, I think these ideas and concepts go back to: do we know intrinsically? Do we know good intrinsically?
Hmm.
And I think this is the Adam and Eve concept, where
Mm,
of your eyes being opened.
right.
Once you have the level of consciousness that a human has, the level of self-awareness, i.e., once you've eaten of the apple of good and evil, I think that is a symbol. That's a symbol of delineating us between the difference between us and animal. So once you've eaten of the fruit of good and evil, that was the story of us becoming self-aware
Yeah.
as intelligent beings. Once you hit that threshold, you then know everything that you wouldn't want done to you,
That's it.
and therefore you also know everything that you could do to someone
That's it.
that would, you know that is where your moral compass starts kicking in.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And if you listen to your moral compass, um if everyone listened to their moral compass, then, well, the world would be self-actualized.
Ideally. Yes. Ideally.
But we also have this selfishness and self-interest, and some people are willing to say, "Oh, well, I'm not going to feel the pain of someone
Mm-hmm.
else, so
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
let me act in a manner that, you know
But
that
yeah.
benefits me, but
Mm-hmm.
that hurts others."
All of this comes
um
from from a place of off balance that we were introduced to
mm,
from the very beginning of time. But then I accessed some information in regards to the archetypes, right? And
yeah,
basically, this is this is a bit of a generalization, but it goes along the lines of Carl Jung, and this author that I was researching and read divides the archetypes into four parts. And these four parts would be a warrior, king, lover, and magician, right? Now, when we're talking about these four archetypes, obviously, for those who have followed us up to now, if you haven't, go and listen up to our previous episodes. These are more states of mind. These are more human psyches. So they would be more like behavioral arguments, if you will. They're not. It's not like you have a little man in you that is a king. This is all ideology. It's hypothetical. It's a theory. But basically, each and every one of these archetypes has a territory and has a competence, right? That he kind of nurtures from the very beginning, from our infancy all the way to our very death. And I was doing all this research because, you reach a point in your life where you're like, okay, I get it. Something is pulling me back. What is this? I haven't got my parents watching over me. I haven't got my ex doing savagery. I haven't got my boss being a dickhead. So what is actually stopping me from achieving, my ultimate goal and being the best of me? And I explored a bit of this topic, and I'll start with the warrior. So now the warrior archetype deals with territory. And his realm, the realm of territory, would be to create healthy boundaries. right? Something
Right.
that ever since we were little, in very English, British, modern terms, we will say we've always been violated in some shape or form from the very day, separated from our parents to some degree, then going through breastfeeding, eventually being separated again to nursery because our parents needed to, do what they had to do, then school, then, and so on and so on. So all of this kind of violates what would be the integrity of this warrior within us. So then, some people go through bullying. There was this case of this kid that got bullied in school here in England, and he had to jump over a fence, eventually falling down and breaking his thumb. Right?
Right.
This guy got violated. So now, what are the repercussions of his warrior psyche, this warrior side of him being, crossed in this way? And the author kind of breaks it down into two parts. You either have a over hyped deflection of the warrior. So this is in negative terms. So you either have two extremities, the negative and the positive side. So the negative side would be he'd be a pussy. Basically, he can't stand up for himself. He's being violated. He would just let go. He's just a victim, tossed
Yeah.
here and there in life. Then on the other side,
Paralyzed by fear
that's
at
it.
the point of responsibility.
There you go. Always, yeah, I can't do it, and kind of, gives up. And then on the other side, still within the negative parameters, but the other side would be he'll big up himself way too much. Now he'll become the bully. He'll become the evil person, you know, self aggrandization, using maybe designer or gadgets to kind of make up for that deflated ego, right? And this spoke volume to me because we did one episode where we were talking about Will Smith, and you came up with your experience with some girl that you were trying to date.
Oh, oh dear, what experience was this?
Yeah. And that spoke loud to me. And I was like, yo, how is it that a human being is willing to undergo this process? It must be something within him that has been defeated, you know? It must be some part of him. And this is also regarding my own personal life. Like, going through boarding school, being bullied in boarding school. Not because, I was the only kid, but because this is the process you go through in boarding school. There's older kids, it's normal. But this leaves a scar. And, sometimes I really have struggled to build healthy boundaries, right?
Mm.
Around people. So I always think, you know what, I need to be the nice guy. I need to be the one that is building the bridges. I need to be the one, etc., etc. But then you see, there's people who then have their own traumas and then they push those things on you, just
Mm.
violating your own space. So that is one eye opener that I would say has shifted the balance for me, basically. And
Mm.
yeah. It's opened my eyes on on nurturing healthy boundaries,
That healthy boundaries is a key skill to have in life,
bro.
and it's really tough. I think women struggle with this,
Oh
and women struggle with it usually, like like they say in the workplace, woman
yeah,
like whatever
abuse,
get yeah,
gender
yeah.
gap. Yeah,
And then the men struggle with it the other way and that way also, but I think men struggle with it sometimes where they're too aggressive and
yeah,
they end up in conflict, particularly when they're young.
yeah, yeah,
And you get, boys getting into fights and things like
yeah,
that.
yeah,
Um, and
yeah,
to this day, um, I think it's an ever a never-ending lesson that you kind of readjust. Should I say something now, or should I not? Should I
That's it.
intervene here, or should I
Yeah.
not? Should I say no,
Mm-hmm.
or should I do this thing that I don't really want to do?
Hmm.
Those things are like, I think everyone struggles with that,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
and
Yeah.
I think having a well balanced confidence, knowing yourself, understanding the value of your time,
That's it.
understanding what you bring to the table
That's it.
helps you with make an informed decision,
Mm-hmm.
um, in those circumstances.
But then that's the thing. What does healthy boundaries look like? Because then you might run the risk of now locking yourself in your own castle, metaphorically speaking. So, you know, the author was alluding to, still painting the picture. Imagine a wall, right, with a door. So now you keep count of who walks in and who walks out of that door. This is alluding to a healthy boundary. So whoever is not allowed through that door basically stays out. And you keep your space safe from, idiots.
I would say that, are you achieving the outcomes you want in life? Because if you're not, the chances are that you're getting that wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Could be other things as well.
Yeah.
But I think that would be a good indicator.
Yeah.
And I'm not just talking about, are you rich? No, I'm talking about, like, are you fulfilled in life? How are your
That's basically,
relationships?
yeah. That's one thing that I've also struggled with, because coming from a Christian background, you're always told that the love of money is evil, right? But you still need money to survive, because that's the main currency, mate. So I've come to understand that even that comes from a place. Well, let me just put it this way: the Bible undermines our our healthy barriers, our healthy limits all the time. So when you have kids growing up in a Christian household, the first thing you're told, and this we would go into another psyche, another archetype, which would be the magician archetype. You are told from the very beginning that you were born a sinner. You were born wrong. Okay. And what does this mean to this psyche of a child that says, look, I wasn't born perfect. I wasn't born knowing everything. I wasn't born accepted. I was born filthy. There's something wrong with me.
Mm.
This is the first, intrusion that goes way beyond the warrior and goes into the realm of another archetype called the magician. Now, this magician archetype has everything to do with fear and emotions. He's kind of the problem solver. We'll say he's kind of like, the God brain within us that solves problems. Look, you need this, you need that, you need X, Y, Z, put these things together. He's the alchemist, right? Now, when you put this alchemist into the position of being not enough, you are already nurturing an off-balance person. Do you get my point?
Mm.
And I was just sorry, by the way, that's my mouse. You've told me to do something about it, but honestly,
it's,
but
it's all right.
yeah. Like, imagine being undermined from very little about your psychological prowess, your
Mm.
ability to make healthy decisions, because children to a certain extent are perfect, they're geniuses. But then, we've been told from as far as I remember that no, you're not born perfect, you're born in sin, you're born filthy. You need XYZ, the blood of Jesus, to make you whole. So now you are not enough. This undermines every confidence in you.
So Christianity's bred a dependency. Now, the saying that, you need this thing that we've got over here in order for you to achieve
There you go. You're not
righteousness.
complete. You're not good. You're
So
bad.
the thing that's occurred to me right now
Right.
is, if someone in an abusive relationship
Yeah.
where they tell the other person, where they indoctrinate the other person,
Yeah.
where the person now believes that, you know, they're wholly reliant on
Mm-hmm.
person. But I just wonder, is there any other archetypal sort of explanation for that? Or is that actually, have we just identified a flaw in Christianity directly?
So
Could there be any other interpretation of that?
so let me get this straight. You're talking about our need for connection, our need for codependency, right?
No, I'm saying the concept that, you know, in order to achieve righteousness, you're
Yeah.
born with sin.
Yeah.
In order to achieve righteousness, you have to come to Jesus, who is
Mm-hmm.
basically the only person that has the antidote, his
Mm-hmm.
blood,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? So you have to humble yourself before him, you have to give up your sins, and then you have to, become born again. You need this act. You have to
Yeah.
do this act, perform this thing that only Jesus can give you
Mm-hmm.
in order to get to that place of righteousness,
Yeah.
which I would say is in order to get to heaven, which heaven would be self-actualized.
That's it.
So, um, are we saying that that is a sort of human flaw that has been injected into the spirituality of Christianity that we now adhere to? Or is there some other explanation that, yeah, that's right, like in order to be self-actualized, there must be a born again symbolism of you, there must be
Mm.
the death, there must be sacrifice, there must be but there must be this thing of, there's only one place you can get it. So the idea is monotheism, like there's
Mm.
only one God, you have to go down this path. Because to me, just looking at it quickly without thinking about it deeply, that just seems like a tool to keep us
Codependent.
dependent on the Christian state,
That's it.
right?
So control too. Yeah.
A controlling mechanism.
That's it.
Um, I don't know.
Yeah. It's exactly what you've said. So basically, other traditions believe that children are sacred. When you were born, you're born without sin, without blemish, and your purpose is then to find your gift, nurtured through music, poetry, arts, and etc., to then realize or self actualize your gift and your purpose here on earth. Now, almost every other, I would say, ethnic or indigenous belief or religion, if we can call it, believed in this principle. It's only with the introduction of Christianity, and we would say a modern type of Christianity. So that's from the New Testament and Islam, which basically say, look, you are not perfect. You actually need to change who you were naturally born, and you have to fit into this very
Like, cut
unnatural
out
gut.
the shadow.
That's what it is.
They're telling you to cut out the shadow
That's what it is.
rather than accept that.
Integrate. That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So basically you can see that you're having to then, and conformity is a very strong tool by the
Mm,
powers that be. So then when you're having to do all of this, all of that stuff that you're tucking away and you're shaving away to fit into Christianity or into Islam, it's not disappearing, it's all going into the shadow.
mm.
So then these manifest themselves in the wrong way because they're just tucked away. They're still part of you. And so, you,
Excuse me.
you hear, no worries, and then you hear about these atrocious stories of, Christians going to enslave Africans, or Christians doing crusades, on a God that is basically saying, look, thou shalt not kill, but then it's okay to kill for his sake. Do you understand the misnomer? So
And I was just thinking about this week. We've had in recent weeks 2 mass shootings in America,
look at that, mate.
and that's like the shadow when you totally do not. When you don't check the shadow, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
you're just told this part of you, it just doesn't
Yeah.
exist,
Yeah. Hide
and
it.
then, or hide it, whatever,
Yeah.
and then you don't deal with your issues, and then you get this rage, this extreme mixed with extreme narcissism,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
at times pain,
Yeah.
pain times narcissism times rage
Yeah.
equal mass
Devastation.
shooting. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And people suffer. Kids suffer, adults suffer, women suffer, humanity suffers, human beings go through hell because we've been taken off our natural course of life, our
Mm,
circadian rhythm, into an unnatural rhythm. Why? For the sake of control.
mm,
So
mm,
do you understand? It's like everyone is not working down their purpose.
mm.
How do you get back on it? And do you even have what it takes to get back on it? Because it entails a lot of work. How do you start doing that? So, that's the magician archetype being targeted from the very beginning by this central religion.
Big question.
Mad.
Let's have a break,
That's it. And we'll be back
and
shortly.
let's come back to it once the break is over.
Yeah, yeah. Short break, guys.
These guys are spilling all the beans. TJ and Campbell, interesting to Blood live on YouTube. These guys are spilling all the beans. TJ and Campbell, interesting to Blood live on
Por Dios, pero esa mujer no se fácil. Deja que Kembo, los del podcast Barapá, están desacatados con informaciones por YouTube. ¡Qué vaina!
These guys are spilling all the beans. TJ and Campbell, interesting to the blood clot live on YouTube. You have to check them out. Bomba These guys are spilling all the beans. TJ and Campbell, interesting to blood clot live on YouTube. You have to check them out. These guys are spilling all the beans. TJ and Campbell, interesting to the blood clot live on YouTube. You have to check them out.
That's it. And we're back again.
Yes. So we've discussed the warrior
Yeah, yeah.
archetype, and the warrior archetype is concerned with maintaining his or her boundaries.
Enforce. He's the enforcer. So he maintains healthy. Under normal circumstances, he should be maintaining healthy boundaries. He's the action taker. He's the one that gets things done out there in the world.
So I think the thing that comes to mind before we move on to the next archetype
Yeah, yeah.
is the necessity for meekness
Mm-hmm.
So again, I've said it before. I heard Jordan Peterson's definition of meek,
Yep.
and that definition is those that have the ability to use their swords, but only do so
Hmm.
when it is necessary.
Mm-hmm.
So, that's what keeping that border is all about.
That's it.
Don't violate me, but also I won't invade unnecessarily.
That's it.
You know,
That's it.
um, so I think that's interesting.
Yeah.
So then after we have the warrior,
Yeah.
we've now discussed the magician.
That's the one. Yeah. That's the problem
Okay.
solver in us.
The problem solver.
Yeah.
Okay. Are you gonna elaborate a bit more?
So basically, it's the psyche within us, the person, or I would say the personality that thinks before taking decisions. So it's a snap of a second, right? Now, when this kind of psyche, let's call it the magician psyche, right? When it's been violated, so the one that is meant to be keeping healthy boundaries is the soldier, the warrior within us. When he's, somewhere else asleep, or he's not maintaining the watch, now he gets to the magician. The magician, the one that is meant to be giving good counsel to another archetype within us, that is the king, the sovereign, right? When he's now corrupt and he's totally taken up by fear, because that is his domain, fear, healthy, I would say healthy management of fear. It's a feeling that we all feel, but we need to manage it in a healthy way. Now, when he cannot take healthy management of this fear, he's now making decisions that are totally in contrast to his interests, to the interest of the warrior, and to the interest to the other two archetypes, the king and the lover, right? And what would that look like? That would look like still in these two, we would divide them negatively into two parts, a downward motion and an upward motion. So the downward motion would be a psychopath, someone who is taken up by analysis paralysis, someone who's confused. Okay. Then now on the other side, on the upward motion, still in the negative realm, it would be characterized by someone who is a manipulator, someone who is extremely narcissistic, and someone who also, shows off patterns of a psychopath, someone who knows his intelligence, knows how he can manipulate fears, words, psychological warfare on other people, but now it's not doing it to empower them, but now to enslave them, to manipulate them, to have them under his control. This would be characterized by the modern day politician. The politician is 100% in his magician archetype. But now, is he doing it for good? There's a difference between the politician and the statesman. So now the politician is the one who's just lying, evil, corrupt, for what? Just for the sake of, I don't know, privilege, money,
Power.
fame, power, whatever it is. And you can see, what the results it does on a nation, on a family, on an individual. You come across as not trustworthy, a liar, psychopath, and many other things.
I mean, it breaks things
There you go.
over
you go.
time. It breaks nations.
Yeah. You have unhealthy patterns. You become a manipulator because you cannot manage fears, which we all have, but we're meant to be giving good counsel to another archetype that we're going to introduce now, which is the sovereign. Now, the sovereign is the leader within us, the one who gives morally sound, ethically correct decisions to the warrior, and he takes good counsel from our magician archetype, right?
Yeah.
But now, if the sovereign, the decision taker, the leader within us is being fed with stupid informations. I don't know if you've watched Game of Thrones. Do you remember this sovereign, the King Joffrey, that was just
Yeah.
taken? You do know that,
Everyone
yeah?
hates Joffrey.
Imagine, yeah? And you see how he was just taking counsel from his mom. So now his mom will represent the evil magician. And you see how King Joffrey was just acting ruthlessly, just doing madness. So that would be the upward negative spiral of a bad or a compromised leader. But now the downward spiral would be a pussywart, a coward, a leader who is absent, who doesn't take decisions, who doesn't make decisions because he doesn't feel fit enough or he just doesn't want to take up the position.
So the goal in life is to sort of. So have we gone through all of
Well, there's a very last one, which would be the lover. Now,
Right.
and
Yes.
this, and I'm borrowing all of this from the book. I'm gonna reveal the author in the description as soon as we finish. But the lover basically is not only pertaining to the realm of sex and physical connection. He's also talking about mental connection, the part of us that wants to relate to other people, the part of us that is kind of social and wants to, we're social humans. So when that part of us now, when these three are all compromised, the very last one, the lover, who is meant to give healthy connections, who is meant to display the proper love language, and so forth, now has the same downward spiral and the same negative upward spiral, which would be the negative upward spiral would be an addict. Someone who doesn't have no control of his sexual urges, his physical urges, and his need to connect with people. We all know these people. I mean, I used to be
I
one
could
of
be
them.
one of them.
Bro, Charlie. Bro, it's when I'm telling you, when I was going through this shadow work and I was going through all this information, I had to pause. At some point, I had to put the book down and I was just like, this guy, is he watching me? Because he's talking about me, bro. And the author was also talking about why we come to these upward negative spirals because of our need to connect. And from infancy, probably we've been told that, look, you want too much of this. You're too needy. Suck it up. You know, that kind of talk that our parents would have given us at some point. So then why would you spiral into porn, sex, drug addiction? Because there's no limit in sex, in porn, in all these drug addictions. Actually, it's on the contrary. The more you indulge in them, the more you kind of feel good. And bro, that made it hit the nail right on the head for me. And now the downward spiral of the lover archetype would be someone who is inappropriately shy, someone who doesn't want to interact with the world, doesn't engage with other people, shuts down and pushes away opportunities from himself, whether in love, work, relations, etc., because he doesn't want to get hurt.
So the key thing here is to see all of these archetypes, recognize where your strengths and where your weaknesses are in
That's it.
terms of these archetypes,
That's it.
and then, try and recalibrate
Mm-hmm.
and become a righteous magician, a formidable warrior,
That's it.
um, a righteous king,
That's it.
and I don't know,
Yeah.
a giving lover,
A healthy lover.
a
Yeah.
healthy lover,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And again, if you can master these four things,
That's it.
that is the road to self-actualization. That is the road to, you know, a better world for everybody, for a better world for you, your family, your
Yeah.
community,
Yeah.
and everyone. Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
the answers to all of our problems are within.
I've always been within us. I've always
And
been
they're
within
all
us.
within.
There's nothing
Whatever's going
actually
on,
outside of us. Yeah. Yeah.
this Ukraine war,
Mm.
these mass shootings, um, this Amber Heard trial
This
that's
woman.
going on right now. God knows what the verdict will be. You're just seeing people that are highly deficient
Yeah.
in some of these archetypal traits,
That's it.
and it creates havoc in on every level.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we have to be sensitive about this.
Yeah.
So as you know, is there anything else you want to add to that?
Well, there's an anecdote by Joseph Campbell, The Hero's Journey. Basically,
Right.
he talks about, how we set out into the world, and there are these various phases where we come out of our comfort zone, set out into action or into adventure, come to the place of our most vulnerable time, almost meet our death during that confrontation, but then get a helper, go back and confront this obstacle, win, and then make our way back to celebrate. Now, this is all metaphorical, right? But in each phase of this journey, we need a different archetype, a different helper within us to face the battle. That is life, basically. And one thing that is working for me, other than meditation and all these things, is to always ask myself the right questions. Who is doing the thinking? Who is doing the fighting? Who is doing the decisions? And who is doing the connecting? That is one thing that for me has been massive. Yeah.
So you find yourself in a situation. If you could pause, come out of yourself,
That's it.
and then say, am I making this decision? Am I taking this action from a position of weakness because my magician is got the wheel right now, or
Yeah.
my lover is
Love
is not
struck.
acting right?
Yeah.
Yes, is love struck or whatever. So I mean that's a great rule for anyone, even if you don't grasp or you don't in the moment think of these archetypes.
Yeah.
Anytime you are in a situation and you can just observe yourself
That's it.
objectively,
Yeah.
you're probably going to start making better decisions.
Potentially. I mean, I'm still living through it, so I would let you know once I'm on the other side, dead.
I mean it's hard. It's
That's
very
it.
hard to do.
Yeah.
But being aware is the first step.
That's what it is.
And the second step is attempting.
Yeah. Awareness
Right.
is the
Awareness.
very, yeah.
And I'm trying to do that in various aspects of my life. Also, I get I sometimes get emotional and get angry at certain things, certain moments.
But anger is
And
good. Anger is good. It's an indication that our boundaries have been crossed. Now is the next decision that is crucial. What are you going to do with that information?
mm,
That's one thing that has, because I used to repress. That's what we've been told, and that's part of what we've repressed in the shadow. We've been told anger is not good, but actually it's data. It's revealing to us that something is wrong in here. Our boundaries have been crossed. That's the warrior waving the flag. He's raising the alarm. But now, when the warrior is not healthy and is not operating from a place of consciousness, a place of good leadership, right? Because the warrior acts kind of subconsciously. If you get punched in the nuts, you're not gonna start, saying, "Oh, it's probably my fault. I spread my legs too wide."
yeah,
You're gonna try and, if strangle is the least you can do, at least try to cut off that person's nuts or something like that. So the warrior needs good leadership, good practice. That's why, martial arts, that's why we do meditation, because this is all conditioning. What are you going to do when you get crossed? You need healthy boundaries. You cannot act out of rage, because then that is, you're out of control. You're insane. You don't know what you're doing. Anything can happen. So that is one thing that for me gave me the insight. Whenever I get angry, I need to understand what is getting me angry, what is winding me up, because it's just an indication that a very crucial boundary in my life, in my psyche, has just been crossed. Example, you don't get paid all of your money. Somebody calls you a dickhead, or someone cuts in front of you in traffic. He's putting your life in danger. But now it gets you angry because it's inappropriate behavior. But what are you going to do? What am I going to do? Am I going to now cross him back, park up, get out of my car, and then start intimidating him on all of that? I'm just displaying a sick and hurt warrior who is not, that's not what we want to see. So and all these indicators.
You're actually projecting weakness, like when Will Smith slapped Chris Rock.
Exactly. You're not being, the meek version that you have to be. Yeah, it's weakness eventually, if we can interpret it that way. But yeah, anger is good, is data. Fear is good, is data. Shame is data. Feeling lonely, all this stuff is all data. It's kind of like our interaction with the world is feeding off these moments and is bringing back information to us, and is telling us, look, this is what is going on, what you're going to do. And then, just to stay within the archetypal realm, the king has all this information. Now he will seek advice from the magician, the one who makes it happen, the designer, the Steve Jobs of the moment, and say, look, we've got this situation in front of us. This is what we're going to do. And then the king deliberates, sends out information to the warrior, and then boom. Either it's going to be the warrior or he's going to be the lover. All right, let's create more connection. Let's create love here, or let's, intimidate. Because there's another thing that Jordan Peterson said, and I'm paraphrasing right now because I can't remember exactly what he said, but he's saying men are supposed to show extreme aggression. You're supposed to look intimidating, but then you're supposed to use all of that intimidation, all of that energy, that aggression, to make your dreams come true. Pour it into your goals, right? And for me, that hit hard. It hit home, because I know when, how to look intimidating, but I just feel it's out of place when I have to be this way in circumstances that might not be of an advantage to the person I'm interacting with. I kind of feel, oh no, I shouldn't be displaying this attitude. I should be the nice guy. I should be the lover, like what the Bible says, turn the other cheek when you get slapped on one cheek. How is that healthy, mate? So you see how, going back to referencing the Bible, you see how it is being given to us by the status quo who doesn't even practice that. Because if you slap a politician right now, mate, you're going to the deepest, dirtiest jail. But it's been given to the layman to follow, which is then offsetting all of his psyche.
Well, I think there is a time to turn the other cheek, and there's a useful, if I'm, for example, I saw once a video online somewhere,
Yeah.
and it was a couple, and the wife, it was a partner, and the wife, the husband, the man was filming the wife
Yeah.
being totally irate and just losing control. And the husband was like, look at what I'm dealing with. And she was saying, I hate you. I hate you. She was just,
out of control.
raging. Yeah. And I looked at that woman and I thought to myself, this is a cry for help. She, first of all, she probably just needs a hug to start off. Like, imagine he just forcefully hugged her until she calmed down. This is
the opposite.
This is like, imagine he just said, it's or like a raging child trying to lash out. That's when you turn the other cheek. And this is the thing. Some of these anecdotes, they don't just work universally. You have to use the right tool for the right job.
That's exactly that's what it is.
You don't take a man's head off when it's time to turn the other cheek. And you don't turn the other cheek when it's time to take a man's head off.
But that's boiling all down to decision making. If you have healthy boundaries, if you have healthy connections, if you have healthy all of these things,
emotionally stable,
exactly, you can take healthy decisions. But if you're already offset because you've just done a night shift, and I don't know, your house, your life, everything is a mess, and you have somebody crossing your boundaries, you see that as the ultimate violation. Is you're gonna leash out of an unconscious space, which is frustration, rage.
It's so important, as to be that as a parent, as well, because if by the time you're trying to be a parent, if you haven't got there, which many of us have not, you're just teaching your child the how to be unbalanced. Day one. Crazy.
And this is another thing. Since at Akbarapa we talk about feminine energy, sexual energy, this is also another thing that women possess. So women possess the queen, the lover, the feminine warrior in them, and I substituted the lover for the slut. Women sometimes need to be sluttish and etc. But now you have and they also have the witch within them, right, just to complete the four. So now, how does a woman identify a good leader? Because all of the situations, all of the potential candidates that are being presented to women nowadays are inflated or deflated. It's either an emasculated man or an out of touch with his emotions, all braggadocious man, right? So this is where we talked about it. Music is constantly feeding a version of a broken, destabilized, you know, sick warrior, leader, magician, and lover. And this is what is being presented to women as the winner, the guy to look up to, the one who's throwing bands in the strip club, the one who is taking you for dinner before even your first date, the one who is taking you shopping at Selfridges, and all of these things that just call the attention of a person that is self-actualized. They just represent a very unhealthy boundary, a very unhealthy fear management, very unhealthy leadership skills, and connection. All of these things are being served to women as, what they should go after. And vice versa. We've been presented with the same thing on the opposite side. We should go for the woman who is X, Y, Z, BBL, and the list goes on.
I don't know if this is the appropriate time, but I've just recently come back from Morocco.
Habibi.
I went for a friend's wedding.
Okay.
And I've had two encounters regarding women well, actually I had three, but
three in the same day,
across 3 days.
Hey, oh man. I trust you, TJ.
Which really, they were painful. They were painful interactions. So I went to a nightclub on one of my first nights. We didn't know the area very well.
Right.
And so, we were just trying to figure out somewhere we could go. And someone mentioned this particular club.
Right.
So we go to this club. There's about 10 guys and about 4 women.
Right.
As a group. We pay to get in. The club was large, a large space. There was a small dance floor.
Right.
The dance floor, imagine a king size bed. That was the size of the dance floor.
Okay.
But the rest of the club was just tables.
Right. Right.
Now the tables all had 2 to 5 women on each table. Every table had a bottle of Grey Goose.
Right.
But the bottle of Grey Goose was sealed, closed. Nobody on the tables were drinking. And every girl was a looker. A lot of BBL going on, a lot of pretty girls, 3 or 4 girls that, you wouldn't, if just off looks alone, I would just marry. And we're talking 200, maybe more women at these tables.
Right.
In the whole place, including my friends, 20 guys, 30 guys maybe.
Right.
Every single one of these women was prostitute. We didn't know this until we got there and we saw the setup and we started asking questions and seeing what the situation was. So what happened was, afterwards, I thought on this trip to Morocco, you never know, I could meet like a nice Moroccan woman.
Yeah.
You never know where things could lead. My goal right now is to find my wife, my partner.
Yeah.
So I asked the taxi driver on our disappointing drive home. So where can I meet just a normal Moroccan woman? And he said, in a nightclub, impossible. Here, every Moroccan woman in a nightclub is prostitute here in Marrakesh. I said, I know, but there must be a place where they go out. And he said, no, if they're going out, then they're not following that path. If they're going out, then they're following the other path, the path you don't want.
Mm.
And he said, if you want to find a Moroccan girl, your only choice is to go to the mountains. That was his quote.
Okay.
You know, it's like relationships had been boiled down to just transactions
That's it.
everywhere I went in that city. And that was my first sad encounter. My second sad encounter. And like, listen, no judgment. Like, there's a time and a place for all of that stuff that goes on that we know about.
Yeah.
I'm no angel, but for where I am in my life right now, what I'm on, and that situation in particular,
healthy connections. That's what it is.
Yeah, that's not where I was trying to be.
Yeah.
Then, so I went there for a wedding. There was quite a few guests, and we are traveling between a villa where most of the wedding activities happened and an all-inclusive hotel where most of the guests were staying.
Okay.
So sometimes you might catch a cab back with someone that you know is part of the wedding party going back to the same hotel as you.
Okay.
But I didn't come to Morocco with them. I don't know them very well.
Right.
I've only met them at the wedding, but we're all the same hotel. Let's get a cab together. So there was one of these times occurred, and I was with two women in the back of a taxi.
Okay.
One was 24. One was 37.
Mm-hmm.
The 37-year-old was particularly combative. That's sort of a side note. She told me she was unemployed, and I'm making conversation.
Right.
And I say, you know, we arrived back in London on Monday. If I could magically snap my fingers and you could get any job you wanted on Monday, what job would you get?
Okay.
And she said, I don't want a job. So I said, okay, you know, you don't want a job. She goes, no, I don't want to work at all. I don't want a job. I don't want to have to work. So the other girl then piped up and said, no, me neither. So I said, oh, does that mean, so you guys want to be housewives? And they both were like, what? What?
Yeah. That's
so
the
I said,
first
okay,
reaction, yeah.
So you don't want to be a housewife and you don't want jobs. What do you want to do with your life? And they were like, we just want to have money and enjoy our lives. I mean, so I said, well, I mean, how are you going to have money if you don't work? And they were like, well, you know, that's the trick. That's the trick. And, you know, whether it be, you know, they didn't say how they were going to get this money, but whether it be maybe a transactional situation with a guy, whether it be some sort of entrepreneurial idea, I don't know what, but such is the mentality. So I said, well, what would be actually wrong with being with a guy that was successful? Then you wouldn't have to work and you could have this lifestyle, you could have all the money.
Yeah.
And the girl said, well, you have to first of all be a slave to your man.
Submission.
And then he's just going to leave you for a younger model when you're older. Who's telling women this? Like, it's such bad information. I said to her, look, like, first of all, if you choose a good leader, he won't leave. He'll be honor bound to you.
There you go.
Number two, it's women that leave men statistically more than women. And number three, you know, I gave the example of King Leonidas versus King Xerxes in the film 300. You have 300 men who are happy to die for their king because the king's at the front of the army.
That's it.
Willing to bleed first, versus the other army that despise their king and fear their king because he sits at the back.
Yeah.
And it's like you're saying the only men available are leaders like King Xerxes.
Yeah. Arrogant.
And that's not true.
That's not true. Yeah.
It's not true. It's like me saying the only women left are hoes and prostitutes. That's not true.
Exactly.
So those were two of the three negative encounters
Mm.
that put a stain on the enjoyment of
Mm.
being in the motherland.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh, which was overall a wonderful time. And
Yeah.
anyway, I thought of that because of this witch, lover.
Yeah.
What were the archetypes? Witch, lover,
Warrior and queen and the woman.
warrior, and queen.
Yeah. Yeah. They're literally being fed with the wrong information. So the queen in them is not even a queen, is a some sort of Rapunzel princess slash, all entitled. I deserve it all without effort.
They haven't had a queen to teach them how to be a princess.
There you go.
So they've got a bastardized version of being princesses.
There you go. There you go.
You know?
It's just an unhealthy decision, one after the other. I mean, and you see why, for instance, we talk about Kevin Samuels. So Kevin Samuels came from a space where he was empowering black men. So he was, objectively talking about the black dating world and talking about how men can stand up to these women who want a six-figure earner, a this, that, six-pack, this and that, I don't know what guy on the first day.
Well, it's the 666, 6 foot,
Yeah,
6-pack, 6 figures.
yeah, without
Well, there's another 6 as well, 6 inches.
inches, yeah. And they don't have to lift a finger because they are the table, right? So Kevin Samuels basically came to dismantle this belief. And upon his death, I saw the most horrific empathy displayed by black women. People being like, oh yeah, this is what you get for da 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 da. This is that, this is that, this is that. And, no one wants the truth. Black women are being fed, black men are being fed the wrong pill. No one is biting the bullet. No one is willing to understand the situation that basically we've been put each one against the other, and we're just in a downwards spiral of negativity with each other. It's just sad.
Do you think marriage is the optimal answer in this day and age?
I don't think so. But let's take a short break and we'll come back after the break.
Okay.
That's it. So we're going for a short break, guys. Stay tuned. By the way, if you're not subscribed, make sure you subscribe. Make sure you like our post. Make sure you click that notification button, comment, share. Yeah.
Live on YouTube. You have to check them out. These guys are spilling all the beans. TJ and Campbell, interested to the blood clot live on YouTube. You have to check them Bombaclad. These guys are spilling all the beans. TJ and Campbell, interested to blood clot live on YouTube. You have to check them out. These guys are spilling all the beans. TJ and Campbell, interested to the blood clot live on YouTube. You have to check them out. Bombaclad. These guys are spilling all the beans. TJ and Campbell, interested to blood clot live on YouTube. You have to check them out. These guys are spilling all the
Yes, we're back from our break.
Yep.
Now, is marriage the ultimate answer to the sick and unhealthy connections within the black community? I
Or
don't
lack
think so.
thereof.
The lack of it. Yeah. I don't think so, because marriage as we know it today is still within a different context than will suit us. I think
Are you talking about the contract of marriage with the state?
exactly involved the state being the arbiter of our love life, of our connection and our forever thereafter. Right.
Hmm.
I just think if we're still seeing things, because if you go to the average girl today and you talk about getting married, the first thing she's going to tell you is, okay, she's going to, roll down a papyrus of lists to do stuff, the dress, the this, the venue, and all of that, totally skipping over the very first point, which is being right between the two. Okay. And I feel like now a lot of people are going for weddings, but they're not really getting married. And that is where, I would say, I don't think it's the answer. We need to go a step further and actually heal. I never gave so much importance to healing from past trauma. But TJ, now I think it's at the forefront of every decision I want to make, because we're just subject to unhealthy patterns. And so we're just making the wrong decisions over and over again.
Well, I mean, I agree with you. I think there are some practical things that can be done to make marriage a safe place again. The first thing is mandatory prenup by the state.
Okay.
Now that means that the man cannot take advantage of the woman.
That's it.
The woman cannot take advantage of the man.
Mm-hmm.
And there is not an emotional decision attached to making that prenup. I.e.,
Right.
if a man says, I want a prenup, or a woman says, I want a prenup, the other person can say, well, if you love me, you don't have to, it becomes an emotional thing.
Yeah.
But if it becomes a mandatory thing by law,
Yeah.
then what you're essentially doing is negotiating what happens if the contract of marriage ends.
Yeah.
What if it's broken?
Right.
And every other contract you sign in history, in there is no contract you will sign that you don't understand the parameters of the exit of the contract,
Exactly.
how it ends,
Yeah.
except for marriage.
Yeah.
That's one. Number two, mandatory paternity test, DNA test, when every child is born. Like, we don't have to have, the guy doesn't have to pay extra money, there's no, when the baby is born,
Right.
the DNA of the man is collected this is like the standard thing, just like you might do other checks, like checking the blood, checking whatever it is you want to check. Just those two things will be like if two people are having a debate, you have a mediator in the middle.
Yeah.
That helps guide the debate. That's what those two things would serve to do. It will put a healthy mediation between any man and any woman.
Right.
Now a woman can't make a plan to marry and divorce a guy for his money. She can't make a plan to do paternity fraud. And a guy can be secure in his decision making.
Right.
That he is marrying a woman that has the right intentions.
I'm being protected.
And think about how the consequences of knowing that whatever happens here, a paternity test is done at birth.
Yeah.
So that might help people make better decisions in the heat of the moment when they discover they're pregnant,
Yeah.
before they, when they conceive.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
then I think we need to change. This is the healing part that you're talking about. Every facet of music,
Mm-hmm.
film, discussion, social media.
Yeah.
It's not something any one person can do.
Mm-hmm.
But if there would be a way to create positive role, like, can you name me one Black family role model in the public eye that you would aspire to?
I would say Kendrick Lamar, but I wouldn't even be too sure of how his family unit is made up of.
I mean, I don't know his relationship.
There you go.
Like,
I mean, the stuff he sings about is inspiring, but I don't know him.
I would struggle to find a strong and healthy Black long term standing couple.
Yeah.
You can put Obama in there.
Yeah.
Obama and Michelle.
Yeah.
Maybe you could put Obama and Michelle in there.
Yeah.
But they're also, it's quite an extraordinary circumstance.
There
those
you go.
guys.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, it certainly isn't Will Smith.
Well,
it's not Oprah.
You know, I'm also weary of just being quick to judge these figures because I don't know what I would do if I was in their place. Right?
You're talking about high celebrity.
I'm talking about high celebrities or anybody that we should be looking up to for reference to our relationships today. I like to have a more introvertial look. So I like to look more within myself because, like I said before, all the answers come within us. We already have them. It's just the choices that we make that are wrong. And how do we go back and just, wait, hold up, push the brakes and say, look, who is doing the thinking now? So, for instance, I see a girl with 2 BBLs. She's got a weave that is reaching her butt. Her nails are as long as her eyelashes. And she's wearing a 12-inch heel. She just walks by me.
With a camel toe.
That's it, in plain display. When I see that, who is doing the connection? Is it the lover from an unhealthy point of view that just wants to hump on that? Is it the magician that wants to exploit the situation maybe? Is it the warrior who is saying, look, we're going to display chivalry or we're going to do something unnecessary? Who is doing the thinking right now? If I'm thinking with my dick, yeah, metaphorically and physically speaking, I'm always going to make the wrong decisions. Halo effect. So, if I'm going for a partner, why do I feel the need for commitment, for a long-term commitment with one person? And like we said on our previous episode, is committing to one person even the right solution for me? Have I considered other options?
Hey, listen.
It's a lot. It's a lot. And
it's a lot. But I have one observation about this woman that you just described.
Go on.
I think the equivalent to this woman in a man,
yeah,
is a guy that pulls up in a flash car
Mm-hmm.
and is dripping with jewelry and cash and is like
Gold or silver.
arrogantly stating,
Mm-hmm.
like, I can buy you.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And women know what I'm talking about when they feel like a guy's trying to buy them.
That's it. Yeah.
It's the equivalent. And
Just, yeah.
think about when you lead with money like that,
Mm-hmm.
you just open yourself for a woman that's like, okay,
Yeah.
I'm going to take this guy for every penny.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the same thing when a woman leads with sex.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It's like, okay, yeah,
Yeah.
I'm gonna hit that one time,
Mm-hmm.
2 times,
Get what I need.
get what I need and go.
That's it. Dubai Porta Potty. Look
The
at what's
thing is,
happening there.
it's cheap. It's easy to get the attention when you
Mm-hmm.
dress like that.
Yeah.
It's easy to get the attention when you're flashing,
Mm-hmm.
but it's not sustainable. It's long term.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
It
Yeah.
doesn't last.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think if there's one thing I could say to all of these sort of girls that are out
Yeah.
showing their bum on Instagram,
Yeah.
to whatever degree, they know what they're doing.
Yeah.
To whatever degree, they don't have to be as crazy as all of that. But
Yeah.
if you're using sexuality as your main
Selling point.
selling point,
Yeah.
and vice versa to men, if you're using money as your main selling point,
Yeah. You're off
I mean,
balance. Yeah.
you're off balance.
To say it nicely, you're off balance. Yeah.
It's not going to work.
Yeah.
It's not going to work.
Yeah. It's just acting from a place of imbalance, immaturity, almost a place of slavery, because you're still bound to these very material things, and that's all you've got. You're actually poor.
Yeah.
It's crazy. It's crazy. But for me, it's been therapeutic going through this book. These episodes we've been having have been massively therapeutic for me, because it's kind of introspectively looking at my life. Am I doing what I preach, or am I then doing something else? It's been massive for me. It's been massive for me. I re-listen to our episodes and I'm like, yeah. I need to live that life. Yeah.
We know what needs to be done,
That,
and then you someone that reiterates that.
yeah.
But yeah, I'm still hoping for this. This semen retention that we spoke about the other day. It's not being retained to the level that. Yeah. I think my only hope is to actually have a woman, and
I mean,
have natural encounters with that person.
Your leader, and I'm talking metaphorically now, archetypically, your leader needs to make the decisions. I kind of had to put him in check and be like, look, we're either getting where we want to get to, or it's goodbye, mate. Yeah, let's just reset the whole thing.
I'll tell you what, it's usually in moments of weakness, in other moments.
Yeah,
when
it's always in correlation. Yeah.
High frustration, high irritation, tiredness and fatigue.
It's, this is so true, because I was reading this one book and he basically made the point. I'm gonna remember the book in a minute, but he was basically making the point that when you feel hungry, when you feel tired, or when you feel like you need to make some sort of connection, do it. Like, have the nap, eat the food you want to eat, call the person you want to talk to, We always talk ourselves out of doing these things because we think it's inappropriate. So we would rather get bored and go and wank off to some porn or watch, Instagram or do something unproductive
Mm,
because we think, look, I'm going to be bothering. This looks weak, or I'm just wasting my time.
mm,
And for me, well, when I absorbed this information, I was still watching porn. I was still doing what I wanted to do. But when
mm,
it really hit that, look, I can just have a nap because I don't know what else to do or I feel tired. I can have some food right now because I feel
mm,
hungry. I'm not going to go and wank to some porn or, I'm going to pick up the phone and call somebody,
mm,
text somebody because I feel lonely. Like these are not wrong feelings to feel. These are all data that we have to internalize and then make the right decision and consequence. So it's just the next phase for me. It had been the next phase for me from being totally out of touch, not in control with these feelings. I mean, I knew when I was getting bored, look, I've done all my tasks. I've done all the work I had to do for today. I'm home. Yeah, I want to
mm,
jerk off to sleep, mate.
mm,
So it's but then this also comes with social programming, social conditioning, and the context, friendships, and so forth that I've had since I was little.
mm,
This was all under very immature leadership. So
mm,
what do you do when you're with other boys who are doing exactly the same thing and have been taught
mm,
exactly the same toxic patterns? You just
mm,
reiteration. It's like a code that is stuck.
mm,
So that's all you're doing. All you're doing, every decision comes out of a toxic place and you're just, spiraling downwards.
mm, mm,
So, and then I was doing some research on semen retention and I actually found like negative reviews in regards. But then the people that had negative opinions had never practiced semen retention. They were seeing
mm,
it as a waste of time. Why would you do that? That's insane.
mm,
Like that's the
mm,
whole point of having sex, no? To not. Or
mm,
I've even seen posts where people advise to have sex 3 or 4 times a day, a few times a week
mm,
at that frequency, and you're just not in. Like you don't have time to do anything. I would be blind, bro, if I did that.
mm,
You're just ejecting all that juice from yourself. But you see how it is. We're all polarized to this side of the scale, just
mm,
towards endless wars. And then we ask ourselves, why is someone just waking up in the morning with a gun? And this two was it two incidents in the same week? One in Buffalo, New York, and the other one in this primary school.
I don't know if it's the same week, but it's in close proximity to
There
each
you
other.
go.
And there
We
was even a
just
church as well. There was another one.
imagine, like, people don't have the answers, and our shadows. It looks like we're in a point in time where the shadow is taking over the personality of most people.
Mm,
We've seen Boris do some shady stuff out of character, going to catch a wine when everyone was on lockdown. We're
I mean,
seeing,
I've been watching this Amber Heard trial. It's unbelievable.
mate, I need to jump on that, but it does look like everything's gone out of hand. And it's
Mm.
because there isn't real leadership in the world. It's just full of manipulators, jesters, and wannabe warriors.
Mm. It's really
Yeah,
it's tough.
yeah. So I don't know. Do we want to be that beacon that, sheds some light on true leadership? I don't know, but I just feel like my own territory, which would be my family, and for you, it would be maybe, your personal life or the family you want to build eventually. This is the bread and butter I want to live by.
Mm, mm.
I've
Yeah.
recently signed up to therapy. I just wanted to
Oh,
share this because there might be, it's still stigmatized for us in our community for someone to go to therapy and all that. But the type of therapy that I chose this time is someone who specializes in spiritual healing work. I
okay.
found that fascinating because not only does she do an assessment on your happiness score, but she also integrates Aboriginal, spiritual, religious. I'm yet to go and find out, but he asks you, what is your soul's purpose? What do you feel other than, your place within your community and etc.
Have you started this?
I haven't, but I've signed up, done the payments, done my assessments and everything, and I'm due in June. So there would be a few sessions that would go over Zoom, and then there would be an in-person session, two in-person sessions, which would then have to be hypnotherapy.
Do any of these involve ayahuasca?
They don't.
Do any of these involve intoxication of any kind?
They don't. They don't. They don't.
Okay.
They don't. But I mean, I've kind of asked for her credentials. They're all legit. I'm kind of looking over. I don't want to be sold snake cure and snake poison and snake oil, whatever it is.
I mean, you don't know till you give it a
There
try.
you go.
See,
That's what it is.
maybe
But
hugely
she,
beneficial.
our initial conversation went around, okay, what's going on? So I went on a rant, rah, rah, rete, rete, this and that, this and that. I don't feel fulfilled in my life. I feel I can do more, but I don't know what's blocking me from getting more and etc. And she went into, right, this is all stuff that I've heard before, but you kind of forget these things. But she went over the 7 year span that every 7 years our life change. And right now I'm in this phase, and this multiple of seven. So this is the phase you're in. This is what it means. This is what is that. This is what is that.
So did she count it from birth?
Basically, I told her my age. I'm 33.
Mm-hmm.
So she went on to say, look, from 0 to 7, this is your stage. 7 to 14, and etc. So she just did the math. Said,
Mm-hmm.
you're in this fifth phase, and this is what's happening. That's what's happening. This is what's happening. Now, the reason why what she said attracted me and kind of did a confirmation, because I also cross reference with another Ifa priestess,
Mm-hmm.
the Babalawo, and she basically told me the same thing a couple years back when I met her. And this for me was like, okay, unless these two people are running a scam where they are, communicating and they're saying these very accurate things about me, I don't know what it is. They must know their stuff.
Okay. So
So
I'm curious to
I'm
to
I'm 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 very skeptical about people getting into my head, but I find myself at a crossroads right now where I need to I need to kill the boy to give birth to the man.
mm,
Yeah. So
Is this what she told you, or is this something that you've
this is information that I've gathered from various research, meditations, and experience in life. Yeah, yeah,
so I
yeah.
just quickly Googled 7 year cycles of life,
Right. What does he say?
and I found a blog post, someone called Tom Monote.
Okay.
So 0 to 7, um, I'll just read the headlines. So
Yeah, yeah.
0 to 7, from one's with mother to growing autonomy.
Mm,
7 to 14, a fight for a fight for commitment to life.
mm,
14 to 21, wild emotions, raging hormones, sexuality.
mm,
21 to 28, play that turns towards responsibility.
mm.
28 to 35, this is where you're at.
That's it.
The body in full bloom.
Hmm.
35 to 42, this is where I'm at.
That's it.
Crisis and questioning.
Is that accurate though?
I don't think so. I think I align more with, I've finally become an adult
Yeah.
somewhere in the last maybe 5 years.
Mm,
And there's still a bit of polishing, but it's like leaving adolescence behind.
yeah.
Took me to into my 30s. It took me into my
mm,
late 20s, early 30s.
Yeah.
And now I think I'm in more like in a sort of establishment phase
Yeah.
of adulthood, like responsibility phase.
Yeah.
I don't think it's crisis. I don't think I'm sort of,
Yeah.
I think I'm just like, okay, we're there now.
That's it.
Adulthood.
Yeah.
Breathe it in, embrace, take action.
I mean, I don't know how accurate these things are, but I have also realized that I also don't have healthy compasses for a lot of these things. I'm just receiving information on the go, on freestyling. So at some point, I need to have some sort of input that then I can spin off to give myself, okay, now look, based on this, because then you know what therapy is basically, it's shadow work. You're basically going there to bring out this knot of emotions, experiences, and thoughts to then be rearranged according to color. I'm metaphorically speaking now, but then all this thread that is all bundled confusedly in our heads to then be arranged in color, size, pattern to kind of make it make sense. So that's kind of what has attracted me to her, and the circumstances by which I came in contact with her were the most out there. I was basically on a live Zoom conference, networking event, and this was for public relations. And the company that was hosting the event, they basically have a journalist come on board that is basically giving tips on how to get exposure on the Telegraph, the Daily Mail, and GQ and all of that. So she posted something on the group, and then I was just chatting and trying to network with other people, and then she said, look, she wants to do this thing because she does rete from the spiritual perspective. The minute I heard spiritual, those are my bells. The minute I had spiritual perspective, I was like, wait a minute. So I had to message her privately. And then she said, look, call me at this time. Da 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 da. We arrange whatever. And we talk about what's going on. And what were the chances that I would have met someone like that on such a Zoom? I mean, I'm making it very metaphysical, very emotional, and very romantic. But I don't want to ignore a lot of these patterns because they could also mean something, wouldn't they?
Yeah, I mean, I think you go there,
Yeah.
you see if there's anything to be learned, not just like learned about yourself,
Yeah.
but learned in terms of like, is there some spiritual aspect that we need to pay attention to that she understands or doesn't understand, or you don't understand?
Yeah.
So I think you have nothing to lose. You go there, you have a look, you
That's
see what the
it.
situation is,
That's
and then
it.
you go from there. Go from there. Okay. Well,
This has been a plummy pleasure. I mean,
as always.
we've kind of covered it all. We're gonna start with some frequency eventually, sometime this week or next week. If you have stayed in tune, I want to really thank you for your patience. Subscribe, click that notification button, share, comment, like, do the most, and knock yourselves out. This is Campbell.
This is TJ.
Yeah. And see you on the other side.
All the beans.
Take care.
TJ and Campbell,
That's it.
interest into blood clot.